I went to the Dave Min town hall last night, and yeah, I'm really into this like communicating with Congress and I guess direct democracy. I think people don't talk to their reps enough, and that's really one of the biggest problems I see is that there's just not enough communication from citizens to the reps. I'm going to get into why that's really important. So town halls are a form of communication, and I'm happy they have them. There probably should be more of them. At least in my district, I feel like I've been to one every 10 years, and that's when I hear about it, I go. So the first thing I noticed, though, right off the bat, is only old people showed up. And people older than me, right? And this is a little sad, right? And either only old people care, but I kind of get a feeling like they don't market the town hall to young people because the town hall was right next to UC Irvine, about a mile away, and like no college kids showed up. And the college kids were the kids that, they did the Gaza protests. So you'd think they'd be really into coming to the town hall and speaking their mind. I'm feeling they're not getting the message. I got this cryptic, spammy text. That's how I found out about it. I don't know if anyone went on campus to market it at all. I have no idea. If you know, please tell me. Leave a comment. But I think that's an issue. I think young people need to go to these things, and they need to actively participate in this process. Maybe it's always been that way. Maybe only old fogies go to any type of city council meeting or town hall with their congressman, and that's just how it normally has been. But that should change. I think that's really important. Anyway, what happens is the next thing I want to talk about is just communicating and communication. What happens? So there's a QR code on the stands and the bleachers. You take a photo of it, and you can submit your question. And he answers about 8 questions in an hour. There's 140 questions. They try to consolidate the questions into themes. But to me, questions are one thing, but maybe there should also be like another QR code so people can just list their demands and grievances. Because we need to communicate. We need to be able to communicate to our congressperson. So questions are one form of communication, but I think it leaves out a lot of stuff of what we want. Because a question could just be like, why did you vote on this bill? Or what's happening with this? What about ICE? And it's not like, it doesn't let us actually go, hey, this is really what's bothering me, and here's a bunch of stuff. I think that would be another thing they could do. Okay. And the reason why I'm really big into communication is this is my main theme is like, I believe we need to hound our reps and be in their ear all the time and constantly be communicating with them. Not pissing them off and bothering them really, but like, hey, you need to listen to us because you're rep us and you need to be talking to us constantly, right? As much as possible. I don't think reps really do that. I think they get away with I actually think they're, I don't want to call them lazy yet, but I think they don't do what they should be doing. Because here's my thing. If you're not talking to the reps, if my neighbors aren't talking to my reps, the lobbyists and the special interests and the people from big corporations are, right? And they're taking up their time, and they're spending a lot of time. And I'm going to get into this when I talk about AI, right? It's a great example of how this happens. So I think that's what needs to change. We need to be talking to them a lot. And I blame the citizens. We're totally lazy, and we're pissed off at stuff all the time. We're mad about politics, and we feel like we're a divided country, but then no one talks to the reps. It's like, you're not doing democracy. We have to do it. Right, it has to come from us down to them, right? Instead, we have this other pyramid where we kind of have everything flow from the executive branch down to us. We got to flip that pyramid. Okay, next thing I want to talk about real quick is Gaza Man. I wish I filmed this. He was like my only homie there, in a way. Everyone hated him. He came straight out. As soon as the thing started and the Boy Scouts put the flags down and left, he was like, you were sending weapons to Israel. Why do you send weapons to Israel? You keep voting for weapons to Israel. And I was like, that's a great question. Like, that's right on. But everyone was mad because he was just yelling and he didn't care about the orderly function of the event. But I was like, thank God someone brought that up because this guy is sneaky. He just voted for a bill that sent weapons to Israel to continue the ethnic cleansing, right? And we all know what Israel's doing now. It's not a secret anymore, right? And he goes on later to say, like, well, we should really, make sure they're not using it for illegal purposes, like using it to do a genocide. But it's like, dude, if you keep sending the weapons, they're gonna keep doing it. Like, we know it's been like 2 fucking years. We know we know what they're gonna do with the weapons. So I kind of get this like squirmy thing from this guy. I don't really trust him as being a great person yet. I think he's playing politics a lot, and that's his job. But like, that pisses me off, because now you're representing me, and you're saying, hey, it's okay to do genocide with these weapons. We made these weapons here. Go ahead and use them. Kill all the people you want. Like, that's not good with me. That's not cool with me. Like, I won't vote for you just on that alone, right? That's a big deal. That's a moral, ethical thing. So I'll put the video in for this, what he talks about when he talks about Gaza.
Although we have a ceasefire in Gaza, there continue to be reports of illegal expansion in the West Bank, violence in the West Bank. What are we doing? So, since October 7th, a few years ago, it has been a very challenging environment to think about Middle East politics. And for a long time, the benchmark of U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East was a two-state solution, that we wanted one state for the Palestinians and one state for the Israeli people. And that has been eradicated slowly over time by the Netanyahu administration. And at this point, and I know not everyone will agree with me, but I believe the Netanyahu government is not acting in good faith when it comes to the journalists and human rights observers, whether it's the bombing of hospitals, at some point you have to say enough is enough. And even though we have a ceasefire today, we have seen a lot of illegal expansions backed by military force, backed sometimes by violence and threat of violence, and displacing Palestinians from their homeland in the West Bank. It appears part potentially of a calculated strategy to effectively undermine the ability of the Palestinians to ever claim a second state for themselves. I think we need to step up and do more. That's why I offer something called the West Bank Violence Prevention Act, which would penalize and collect sanctions on anyone who commits violence or illegally displaces people from their homelands in the West Bank. It's why I also signed on to legislation to review carefully the use of U.S. offensive weaponry in the Middle East, because it is illegal to use our offensive weaponry in ways that are inconsistent with international law. So we have signed on to legislation requiring audits of how those weapons are used. We're looking closely at the legislation right now. But it is horrifying to see how many people are dying there. It's horrifying to hear how many people are dying in Iran. It's just a it's a hard time for those of us who just believe in peace and human rights in this world.
Then he goes on to AI. People were worrying about AIs in jobs, and this I kind of thought was funny because I don't actually agree with him on this all the way yet. But he was basically like, we're effed. The AI is just going to ruin the job market, and your kids aren't going to have jobs, and I don't really know what to do, is basically was his answer. I was like, I just thought that was funny. I guess it's very honest. And then he's like, I talked to Sam Altman, and that's basically what Sam Altman told him. And this is a great example going back to communication. So he's talking to Sam Altman. Sam doesn't live in our district. He lives up in the Bay Area, right? But like, this guy's getting, really, really direct attention from some guy from big business. And that's the thing I don't like. It's like, yeah, I get it. You're gonna speak to people, leaders of industry and all that. But it's a great example of how, like, he's not going around talking to my neighbors, right? He's talking to this guy. There's an important reason to talk to Sam, right? But you can see how someone from big business gets to talk this guy's ear off. That's all I want to really emphasize there. Last thing I want to talk about real quick is there was a lot of questions about ICE. ICE has been in our neighborhood, and people are pretty pissed off about it. It's interesting because he actually said that he's okay with like ICE basically taking shoplifters and deporting them. And he even acknowledged that people would not like that answer. And that's an interesting one. I never thought about that, like the petty crime stuff. And so there's a theme in Orange County politics where you want to rep the conservatives and the liberals here, because we are like pretty much 50-50-ish. And Katie Porter was kind of the same way. So he goes into like this sometimes pro ICE, but really he doesn't like ICE. And then also kind of pro business. He thinks California has a little much too red tape, and I probably agree with him to some extent. And so he does kind of work I'm not totally like a crazy like lefty, liberal, I guess left progressive psycho, and he's trying to be very moderate, and I just think that's interesting. I don't think all progressives are psycho, by the way, but there's definitely sometimes progressives do get on some weird topics, and it's like, what are you doing? Okay, so that's my video. So yeah, be sure you know how to contact your reps. I have videos on my channel on how to contact them. Make sure you talk their ear off. Tell everyone to talk their ear off and constantly communicate with them. Get in their face, because the best way to run a democracy is if the people actually act and do work. And I know everyone's busy and has jobs and kids, and we don't have time for this almost. But this is you have to make time for this stuff, I think. Otherwise, they're gonna ruin everything, right? So yeah, that's my video.